Hello students, welcome back to your computer science class. Today we are starting the 11th chapter, list manipulation. Last class we did string manipulation, and in that class we saw how to manipulate string in a program. This class we're going to learn about lists. The Python lists are basically containers that are used to store a list of values of any type. Unlike other variables, Python lists are mutable. That means you can change the elements of a list in its own place. Unlike a string, which was immutable, list is mutable. Python will not create a fresh list when you make changes to an element of a list. List is a type of sequence just like strings and tuples, but it differs from them because list is mutable and strings and tuples are immutable. So in this chapter, we will learn how to make a list, how to create the list, how to access the list, different operations of a list, manipulating a list, and using the built-in functions of the list. A list is a standard data type of Python, and it can store a sequence of values belonging to any type. The lists are depicted through square brackets. These following on our screen, you can see some different types of lists of Python. First one is an empty square bracket, so it's an empty list. Second one is a list of integers. So over there you can see numbers 1, 2, 3. They are not in quotation marks. Then there is list of characters, that means single alphabets in quotation marks. And finally, you can see a list of strings where you see different words. You could also have a sentence as an element of a list. And a list could also have multiple data types. A list doesn't need to have only a single type of data. To create a list, we put a square bracket. We open a square bracket. Square bracket indicates the start and end of a list. And elements of a list are separated by commas. Before we move further into the chapter, one thing that you must highlight and you must remember is that lists are mutable. You can change the element of a list in its own place. Memory address of a list will not change even after you make changes to the values of the list. List is one of the two mutable types of data of Python. One is list and the other is dictionary. These are the only two mutable data types. To create a list, we put a number of expressions in between of square brackets. The square brackets will indicate the start and end of the list. And elements of the list are separated by a comma. Empty list. Empty list is open brackets, close brackets without any elements in the middle. It is equivalent of a zero or a quotes, empty quotes. And like them, it also has a truth value of false. You can also create an empty list as L equals to list open bracket close bracket. List open bracket close bracket is a function, it's an inbuilt function which will create a list. So we can even make strings into a list using this function. So if you use the list inbuilt function, it will create an empty list and it will name this list with the variable name L. nested list. Okay, there is one in the middle, I think it's skipped over here. That is a long list. Long list is, it contains many elements, okay, and these kind of lists can also be split over various lines. Always remember, opening of square bracket and closing of square bracket mark the beginning and end of a list. Now, a list can have an element in it which it in itself can be another list. Such a list is called a nested list. Over here in this example, L is a list with 4 elements. 3, 4, 5 and 6 is one element and 7 is the next element. So in this case, just like we used to use in a string, how we use the index values, just like that, I can say L in the place of, let's say, 0. So this will have the index value 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. It is 4 elements because when we count, we'll count from 1. So this is a list. L is a list with 4 elements. These are the index values, and list element 2 in itself is another list. So the length of L is 4 because it counts 5 and 6 as one list. What are the similarity with strings? Length. Function len, which is an inbuilt function, it returns the number of items in the list. Indexing is again the same. L in the box bracket specify, it returns the item at that index number. Slicing. Just like a string, we can also slice a list. It will return a new list which will contain the objects at the indexes between A and B. Remember, excluding B. Concatenation and replication operators. The concatenation and the replication operators do the same function. The plus function will add one item or one element to the end of adds one list to the end of another list, and the multiplication operator will repeat a list multiple times. We can also create lists from the existing sequences. So let's say I have for example, I'm just opening PyCharm so that I can show you all a few examples. Till then, children, I want you all to complete a few pages in your practical books, computer science practical books. You will complete the entire chapter strings now. And these are the chapters that you must have completed now. If not, please start working once the school starts, which seems to be from January today. Then I will be asking for these books for correction. So up till now, you should have completed chapter 1, chapter 2. This is in the practical book. Chapter 3, chapter 4, and chapter 5. Up till page number 88, you should have completed most of the work. And these are very small things, these are not major things. So you have lots of time to sit slowly and complete it. Okay? Okay, just give me a minute. Something's wrong with my pie chart today. Okay, right here. So this is my empty list. I'll just go to my, let's go to the terminal. So let's say this is my empty list. Okay. So let's say I say something like L1 equals to list. So an empty list, which is L1, has been created. When I click on L1, I see empty box brackets, open bracket, and close bracket. Now, let's make another list. L2 equals to list. And this time, inside my box bracket, I'm typing a word, let's say hello. Now let's look what happens to that list. In my box bracket, I have made a list of characters. Okay, now let's do another one. L3 equals to list. Now let's look at this one. How is this formed? So if you make a list in this manner, each and every character becomes a separate element in your list values. Now I'll make a tuple. A tuple is very similar. I can also make a list like this. See, list 4 equals to box brackets, and then I separate my numbers. And now if I look at L4, this is also a way to make my list. Okay. I can either use the inbuilt method list and use my round brackets, or use my direct square brackets and make a list. Now, I can also have a list 5 which equals to list 2 plus list 3. Now let's look at list 5. Hello, how are you? Yes. Similarly, I can have list 2 multiplied by 3. Hello, hello, hello inside an entire list. So this is how concatenation and the multiplication operators work over here. We can also do this. I can say list equals to list 7 equals to. I'm using the list which is my inbuilt function, and inside I am writing input, and I'm telling the user enter elements. So over here the user is prompted with enter elements. So I'm writing numbers and say enter. And let's look at list 7 now. Okay. So I have shown you multiple ways in which we can make a list. Practice making lists and complete the first few pages. I'll tell you the page numbers in your practical book. List is chapter 7, page number 92, 93. Okay, you can just do two page numbers, 92 and 93 for now. Okay. So with this, children, I end today's class. Stay home, stay safe, take care, keep learning. Thank you.